Hi everyone, welcome. I'm preparing to check in on my mixed bin of red worms, or bin of mixed red worms. I think I got those mixed up last time too. I think it's a bin of my so-called mix of red worms that consist of the ever popular red weggler RW, ENC, which is European nightcrawler, and blue worms. So these little guys have been undergoing a little bit of a twist to the way I feed typically. I usually just feed down the middle, but here we've been ping-ponging, so I've got this little diagram to illustrate what the ping-pong diagram really consists of. It really just means switching the spot where we feed each time, rather than just always feeding down the middle like all my other bins. We've been alternating the feeding location of the system each time. So let's see if we can take a closer look at this diagram here. If you look closely, here you can see Brussels sprouts is what's on the menu for feeding number 11. That's today. The 11th feeding of this system, 11 days after it was last fed. And the last time it was fed over here, 11 days ago, I believe we did position my FZI, my feeding zone indicator, in the wrong spot, because it should be over on this side where we last fed, with pumpkin, with lime, with avocado. And as you can see, we've kept really detailed records with a little day counter next to each, indicating what was fed where. So it's kind of interesting to be able to find something and say, hey, you know, when did we feed pineapple? Because there's these really fibrous strands of material. That's what we saw last time we were in here, and I couldn't identify what it was, but it was like the inner core of pineapple stripped into these little, I don't know, they were like maybe the size of a mozzarella stick. I don't know if that's a thing that most people can relate to or not. So here's the old diagram from last time. We've kind of gotten into the tradition of just leaving this thing behind as sort of a top covering. And you know what we can do is we could always reuse any old piece of paper like this as supplementary bedding down in the feeding zone. Now when we came in here last time, both sides of the bin actually got some bedding because we thought that perhaps the system was a little bit overly damp. I had some somewhat dry bedding sitting around, so I think we had hoped that we'd see some absorption of some of the system's moisture into the dry bedding we added. So here's where we fed. We add bedding here too with the feeding, and before we go over to the opposite side where we're going to also find freshly added bedding, but that was all we added last time. We'll excavate that to see how things look and apply today's portion of yummy Brussels sprout. Let me just give you a little sneak preview. This is when I included in the description with stem. I don't know if you've ever seen what one of these things looks like when it grows, but all these little nods, all these little spots where there's been the Brussels sprout chopped off, that's what the stem looks like. And it's really tall, and this stuff looks really tough. Something I've never tried composting, so I've already tried putting that not frozen into some other systems that I've got, but here these have been frozen. As you can see, there was also some just Brussels sprout leaves over there too. So just really quick, since we're checking it out, what was fed here recently? Pineapple. I just made mention of these interesting strandy little objects that we saw last time. After another 11 days, it is quite possible that we're not going to see more of that. Now here, this looks pretty popular. This would go back to the last feeding too. Avocado pit with peel, and worms definitely digging it. That seems pretty much for certain. Avocado and the pit and the shell, everything. It's always very, very appealing to the worm, especially if there's even some avocado left, and that seems to be the case over here too. Oh, here's some pumpkin remains from what I can tell. A little bit unusual to see that, but yeah, it's only been 11 days, perhaps not too unusual, and very muddy. I'm wondering if we would possibly benefit from doing a repeat of what we did last time too, which was, you know, we were checking the feeding zone to see what it looks like. We found that it was pretty damp, and then instead of just putting it back the way we found it, overly damp, we did add some dry bedding I do have some shredded paper cardboard mix, which hasn't been mixed into a prepared bedding yet. Stuff that's just sitting there dry. I am thinking that that might be something good to add into this material just to help it absorb some of this moisture. And more bedding is always a good thing too, right? Here's my prepared bedding. As you can see, I got quite a bit of it here on hand, but we're not going to use too much. We're just going to sprinkle a little bit in here. I think it'll help absorb some of this moisture. Probably won't make much of a difference, but hey, what the heck. We did it last time. We already set a precedent for doing something like this, and I got a feeling the worms are going to appreciate it. I think by applying it this way too, we're going to help the stuff be in contact with as much damp material as possible. Kind of trying to avoid letting the stuff get into a big pile or a lump. So we left the main course out. The avocado feast, and here's an avocado pit, which I bet you in short order we'll be able to just crack if we wanted to try that. And in fact, I just felt as I was pressing it down how soft it was already, so I'm almost certain that that thing would definitely crack if I tried. Perhaps next time we will try, but I think it's time to move over, and we might use this as our bedding for the feeding itself too, because I kind of like the idea of absorbing moisture when it seems like it was too much. I mean, I watched the video from last time to get a read on how moisture was. I did remember it was pretty damp, and the video confirmed it. So I kind of thought it might be a nice idea to come prepared with some dry bedding this time to help absorb some of this seemingly excess moisture. Man, this piece of newspaper has been around for a while. We stumbled on it down here in the feeding zone last time. It was still pretty much intact, one large piece of paper. Yeah, we returned it. What else did we have though on this side? So it was pumpkin stem, pumpkin plus stem. Here's some other stem. I think stem was the main theme here. This is stem of a pepper. And there might have been other stems too, but I think that those two pumpkin stems, one which is now only 23 days of age, but then the other one, 70 days of age. It'll give us a chance to compare the progress of a couple pumpkin stems where there's quite a difference in their ages. Banana, well, you know, certain things are probably history by now, you know. Stems, yes. Any pumpkin remaining, mainly no. Just a little bit of its skin. Let's see what else we find, and then let's get these little guys fed and leave them to be. Yeah, lots of moisture, you know. I think I'm probably just gonna, at the end, we'll cover up like we did last time using the diagram and letting it become part of the feeding. So the next time when we come back, and we're going to do the same here today. So this will become bedding, but I do like the idea of getting some more of that dry in here. So let's start out with a little foundational layer of just dry material, and then some of this recycled, well-seasoned paper will pretty much guarantee that it's going to get demolished. And then these things are so big. Man, oh man, look at the size of those things. And they're pretty tough too, you know. They got some good weight to them. The rest of this is all just like the base of where you pop off one of these little Brussels sprouts, but mainly just exterior leaves on some of the larger sprouts that were removed, saving all the yummy, tender stuff, and all the rest goes to the lucky wormies. Got my prepared grit here too, and it's really just pulverized eggshell, and we're going to include that with the feeding because the worms can always use a little bit of grit. And then before we cover up the feeding zone, let's get these stems back in here. What else did we have here? Some other very seasoned newspaper, which would be nice to see gone one of these days. been making repeat appearances now over and over again. And hopefully soon it'll be history. So this thing stays over here. But everything else I think has been, for the most part, a little bit more here, returned to the feeding zone. So I don't think there's much to be done here. Let's cover up, and I think it will do this system a little bit of good to get a little bit more air, at least out here on the surface, to let it start getting rid of some of its moisture. It definitely seems like it's too much. Gosh, I'm just noticing now this wicked glare of light streaming in from the window. I'm sorry about that. Hopefully it didn't mess up the exposure too much. If it did, I apologize. But we're pretty much done here. The only things we're going to do are still return a feeding zone indicator, but this time put it into the right location. It's on this side, which is where the Brussels sprouts just got fed. And the 0-day counter is already there, prepared to calculate for us the next time we come back, whenever that may be, what the interval was, and then continuing to provide similar calculations for all the ages of previous feedings too. So, like I said, I'm going to be swapping out that plastic cover with something different. I don't have anything on hand. I think that decision just sort of came upon me now, so I'm not prepared for it. So that's a little bit of homework for me. Other homework for me is to clean up and put away, but I'm not going to keep you around for that. That's boring. Before I go really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated, and if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.